Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the class tonight. I want to start off with some of your questions, and not everybody sent any in, but I hope that you're ready tonight to ask them nevertheless. Venerable Sanjip, you sent in a statement about your work with searching and the fact that you found many times wrong information from Chat GPT. Can you describe to us what it gave you that was wrong, just so we understand what you were experiencing?
Yes, thank you, Professor. I got some wrong information that when I search about literature review, not about Dasabhumika Sutra, other subject. I put in ChatGPT and I got some correct information or also some wrong information. That ChatGPT gave me some book names, but author names are wrong, and some uh, book names and also article names wrong, but author names are correct. So sometimes I search in our on the US library website for correction. So I got some information wrong. That's why I really don't use ChatGPT for literature review. I just search in our university library website.
Okay.
So, Professor, what should I do to get correct information from ChatGPT?
Howie Land is going to come on in a little bit. He's late today. Chris, do you have any suggestions for him, though?
How to use ChatGPT?
Get more accurate answers or train it better.
Yeah, I do have some ideas, and I think the best thing to do is to stop thinking of ChatGPT and chatbots as intelligence. It's an interface that uses our conversational form to communicate, but it doesn't understand what we say in the same way that another person would. So we can't really talk to these LLMs as if they're another person. And I think that's part of the marketing genius of these, is that they branded it as AI, and they also put this conversational interface, which makes it very easy to use. If it was more like a database and it was kind of dry and we had to use some programming language to get in there and get information, nobody would use it, right? So the genius is really this conversational interface. So if we don't think of AI as if we're talking to another person, again, I think AI is a bad name for this thing, but these LLMs, we're talking to a machine, and the machine needs parameters. It needs to know exactly how to behave and exactly what we want, exactly what we're looking for. If we don't tell it all of these details, it just kind of pulls together from its pattern recognition the most average and easy answer that it will get. And that's how it works. It works on recognition of patterns. It doesn't understand, it doesn't think, it doesn't It doesn't know anything outside. Actually, it doesn't know anything, right? It's just putting together patterns. And so we have to tell it exactly what we want. We have to tell it how to behave. We have to tell it who it's speaking to, and be very, very detailed where to look, what to look for, what kind of response you want. So that's my first bit of advice, is to stop talking to it like a person.
So should I believe AI or not?
Should you believe it? I think it's a good brainstorming companion. It's a little bit better than Wikipedia most of the time, and it can find some things out. Maybe it can bring patterns together that you didn't see, but it again doesn't understand.
Yeah, I do like this. I searching in ChatGPT, and also I search in Google. It's correct or not? Google Scholar or our US library website. Correction.
Yeah, I would always verify anything that you get from any of the ChatGPT or anything else. Make sure that what it's telling you, you can find it somewhere else, and that it makes sense. Treat it like Wikipedia, on caffeine. And that can give you more answers, and it can also give you more errors. ChatGPT does this thing, they call it hallucination, right? It every now and then just makes something up. And so do we, right? We make things up. Our brains make things up all the time, to try and make sense of our world. They did these amazing studies. You should check them out, where they took patients who had a split brain procedure and showed one half of the brain one thing, and the other half of the brain made up a story to explain what the other half of the brain experienced. So our brains build these hallucinations for us. And so the machine kind of does the same thing. When it has a gap in the pattern, it doesn't usually admit it right away. It'll make something up. And then you have to ask it, is that true? And then it might admit that it's actually made something up.
Oh, Howie, hello.
Okay.
Welcome. We're just discussing with people's questions
Okay.
and their experiences with AI search.
Hallucination.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I think I mentioned a little bit last class. Because of this, and also this is the big challenge for the industry itself, trying to minimize and avoid this. All the new technology developed, trying to minimize that. And for us as a user perspective, then that's why our principle using AI is that we have to check, right, to verify. That is a very key, at least at this stage of the technology, for serious things. But like I probably already mentioned it, we want to take full advantage of those that we can already very easily verify. So later we can probably talk about more, because if we think about more in the detail, we know certain thing we can verify based on our own confirmed information. Those are relatively easy. So in that category, the AI things we can verify ourselves, then we should take full advantage of it. For example, if we want to make a table, we can judge if the table is right or wrong, right? But for knowledge, when we have teacher, a mentor, or expert like professor here, then we should take full advantage to discuss those, and then we gain knowledge. And also it's a way of verifying it. Now for new topics, nobody knows, then it's our responsibility to do our fundamental research. That's actually, I think it's my main point, but I didn't know I make it across or not. Our, as a human, traditional research, skills and practice, we should keep that as another way to verify AI. Now, AI, on another side, on the other hand, will be a very strong, powerful assistant for us to check itself. Sounds like a contradicting thing, but if you think about in the detail, we know certain things that we already know we can verify or verify it very efficiently. Then we can, for example, ask AI, give me, the source, right? So just like we do searching, we know where those things are coming from. And also searching is still a very fundamental skill at this point, because we know what's the difference between searching and AI, response. Is a searching, whenever we get the information, I mean, the response or the material, they didn't get altered, unless it's still about the same. It could be garbage in, garbage out, but still we know it's a garbage or it's a truthful of piece of information. But AI, because it through this process, thinking, we can just using the word, thinking by another, brain, but it's not human brain. So they are not identical exactly like the raw data. They are based on to come up with those outcomes. So that's why, that is the searching is still a very important tool for us. And even we think about, even among our humans, sometimes you still need to verify someone saying, something is true or whatever, because we analyze that by seeing, okay, it could be what kind of condition people, provide those kind of outcomes. So it's the same, I think, in that sense, when we deal with an artificial brain or computation. And let me just, since this is a very interesting, I can't pass this out. Just yesterday, from a TV news from a Chinese channel, there's a big, fake news. It's causing some people scare. It says the 90 people born in 90s, the death rate is hit 5.2%. That's a very high percentage. So all the people, talking in the social science, social media, or whatever, it's this untrue things. It's a blooming. It's like like everybody seems getting, this thing kind of scary. Then it turns out probably the very first information coming out is through someone, chatting with AI, and AI, based on the the survey, national survey data, but couldn't understand fully, and then come up, hallucination, or we can call it's a miscalculation, and then, answer those to the questions, and then people, didn't check it, or by whatever commercial purpose they want to just catch people's eyeball, and then, it's spread out. Yeah. But now, it's a very, very good example. Good
That's
question.
a good example. Thank you, Howie. Sanjay, do you want to add anything more?
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Sure. Okay. Shanshan, let's go over to you. Why don't you yourself say a little bit about what you submitted?
Okay. Yeah, and I just sharing the experience I also mentioned in the last class, in the Foguang Dictionary English translation team, we use many mixed AI now. So the most valuable, useful AI tool for the Chinese terminology to English is DeepSeek. And in the last few weeks, we studied with the people's name in the Chinese history. So Vero Zhiyue provide us a very complete prompt. So a little bit callback to Vero Sanji's question, because you have to limit the prompt wording to tell AI what do you want. Otherwise, just like, come across the strangers on the street, just talk something, they will provide you very, very, very general information. So we limited the information, the prompt wording, and then provide very accurate answers to us. The format, everything is perfect for the people's name. And then we study with the books catalog. That suddenly the AI kind of like get crazy. They don't understand it. They try to provide us a very long explanation. I always talk them stop with providing explanation. Just give me anything I want, something like that. But it did not work that well. And then one of our team member found that there's some complete wording for the catalog, the book name in our team, in our internet. So I just feed the words to the AI, the DeepSeek, and they suddenly get smarter, and then it can provide me what I want. So I found like AI, someone is like maybe student. So you kind of like teacher for them. You tell them, okay, I want this, but some is a good example for you. Then you will get it immediately. So I find it's really interesting. And then another thing is really interesting finding is yesterday. I did not think about it because I always use AI to do the English translation for the Buddhist terms. But my colleagues, they use AI for fortune telling. So I never thought about it. They just will ask AI, so how is my career or relationship, whatever things which I well in a few days. I never thought about it. And they even think that the ChatGPT provide more accurate information for the Western horror style, something like that. But the DeepSeek can provide more accurate thing if you want to know your Chinese fortune telling. So for example, in the Chinese, we have our own A characters, or the city have different elements, like in the Buddhism, the 4 elements. But the ChatGPT will tell us the Beijing belongs to wood, the element. But actually, Beijing is belong to water. So the ChatGPT cannot verify the city of Beijing, what kind of element. So that's really interesting. I never thought about it using AI to tell me what should I wear today, but my colleagues use that. But its information is not that academic, but I think it's also give us some colors in our life. So I would like to share with you. Thank you.
Thanks very much. The other thing you mentioned is that it was very hard for it to translate the Chan poems.
Oh, yes, yes, yeah. Yeah, and yeah, that's really interesting because in the Chan point, that's very Chinese culture, maybe deep in our DNA, or maybe for someone who learn Chinese really well. There's something that you can beyond language. Every time we read the wording, and we feel like, oh, that's really beautiful. We just get it. But when we put it to ChatGPT at that time, it just provided literally the wording. Like in the Chan school, very much also belongs to Lingji school. It is famous for stick and shout. So, in stick and shout, it's not that someone hit you very violent, but it's just something that hits you at the moment. You get awakening. So that's something beyond language. But the AI ChatGPT can understand it. It will give you something very straight and it's just like stone through at you, something like that. It looks like, oh, it's not that way. So we will discuss with our team member from the Chinese perspective how to refine those beautiful things beyond wording. So ChatGPT cannot understand it very well. So sometimes the AI cannot get the human beings, the spirit for now. But we hope that maybe in the later they could understand it more.
Oh, I'm sure it will change.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shan. I know that you've been very much involved in actually doing translation work for years now. And your insights about AI are very, very helpful to us. Thank you so much. Colin, I didn't see a question from you, I think. Did I? Yes, no. Right. You asked two questions, and I have to admit that the first question I don't know how to answer. You asked,
Yeah,
why
I was
did-
just I was just curious because I saw in multiple sutras where Buddha showed this expression in terms of the ray of lights through in between the eyes most of the time. So I'm just curious about the significance of that. Was there any other meanings to it? Yeah, that's just mostly what I'm wondering.
Well, you know that in India, they put a red dot right here between your eyes. Does anybody know what the significance of that is? Sunny, have you ever put a red dot on your forehead?
I actually have never done that.
Okay, this is a good con. What I want you to do is to ask AI right now, what is the significance of putting a red dot on your forehead between your eyes in Indian culture?
Yes, I'm doing that as we speak.
We want to share your screen. We can see what you're looking at.
Yes, of course. So, so it mentioned about carries both the spiritual and culture significance.
Yes.
And the third eye, spiritually, it talks about the third eye, maybe from the Hindu tradition, and also symbol of auspiciousness. I don't know what that means.
Auspicious means something which is, as you have in parentheses there, something that's very favorable.
Okay. Yeah.
An auspicious omen is a favorable omen. That, you know.
Yeah.
I think that that really does capture it, that first of all, it's a kind of, women put it there because it is also a protection. And a lot of times people are not aware that that is one of its uses. They think of it as just an adornment, as you have in number 4,
Hmm.
but it's more than an adornment in tradition. And it really was protection and giving you good luck for the day and starting the day off right.
Hmm.
So let me ask, Reverend Conscience, when you just saw what we did, I'll ask a man this question. Is that one of the ways in which you work when you come across a term which you are not really sure of?
You mean with AI?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I have a lot of textual books that I look through as well. But yeah, I think AI is sometimes a place where they give you information. Now, I always check it against other information. So, as many people have said, I find lots of inconsistencies, but I know that AI grows with our inquiry and what's published and what's understood. So, when I use AI in such a situation, if I was looking up that question, um, I would look at it as perhaps a directional aspect as to what textual um, research I may do. You know, I don't look at it because a lot of times I find it sometimes incorrect, and sometimes it'll say it's incorrect or it'll give vague or incorrect information, but then it requires um, additional research. So, I mean, it directs me a lot of times, especially when I'm doing translations. It give me a sense in which, a direction or questions that I need. I don't know if that makes
When
sense.
you looked it up, did it help you?
In some sense, yes. To perhaps what I don't always assume that I know when you ask the question. I of course have some things that were shared to me about the purpose and reason of that, but um, yeah, it did help me. I think it always helps me in the direction of my research. I find it very valuable. That's why actually this class has been extremely valuable because I haven't had any other classes that have spoken about AI, except my daughter who's now in college. She uses AI. But when I'm doing research, especially in a lot of it's fascinating now because before you would have to spend hours and hours searching the internet if there were texts that were translated, etc. But I could find how do you say, like a piece of a puzzle, perhaps. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, my question is also to Kanwu. Did that help you when you did that? You asked, you asked,
Yes, I think I think it helped me a lot in terms of at least getting initial context, and then give me some ideas about what to look for if I'm interested in dig a little bit deeper. So as my fellow classmates were talking about this, I actually asked ChatGPT, give me a score between 1 to 100. What's your assessment of the accuracy of that information? Sort of I asked AI to give himself a scorecard on the information. It says, I'm about 90% sure my information is accurate. So I don't know how AI made that assessment, but I was just thinking out loud, see how, you know, throwing random questions to AI, but I also found that's quite interesting as well.
I
Yeah.
never thought to do that. That's a good thing. It'll be interesting to continue to ask that question. Reverend Kanjan, you have your hand up.
yeah, that's a really good point. I tend to think of it as the person who, I mean, AI is very confident in itself, sometimes. I think that's why that's a really interesting question to ask AI. That's really, really insightful. Yeah, but I mean, very rarely it'll come up and say that I don't know enough about this topic. But yet, in the most part, and I didn't always see it as most confident, but in some situations, it does take the, how do you say, in the spectrum to the more confident aspect of it. That's why I think we have to maintain our own kind of, how do you say, intellect to be able to be, to take it not as fact, but as insight, as you had said, Kanwu, in the way
Yeah.
of being to direct us. It's very helpful in directing me in my research. Very helpful.
Howie, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I can I help? I want to follow that up, for Ken's question. Actually, in that situation, in your case, you just mentioned that you can put yourself as you treat this AI as your assistant. So you can even ask question, tell me based on exactly what you come up with that score. Give me a list on the support materials. So actually Gemini is a pretty good give you support materials, right? Because Google is a search engine, so it has a lot of resources. So further, you can, when you look at if it gives you those reasons, you can drove it in. You can say, okay, this material seems not right related to what I'm asking or to support what you are. You can, doing this argument kind of a dialogue with AI, just like with a human being. So I, from my practice in the recent, this past couple of years, I found out, it will even, some of the AI system, even they don't give you the answer precisely, it gives you some insight how it was, thinking. I think things like DeepSeek is doing very well because it actually showing almost all, sometimes too much of the so-called the thinking. Basically, it's the reasoning, approach. So you can, from there, you can get the idea how it works. That's my perspective. But for your, for user perspective, at least this system to the particular question, how well, what kind of information is related behind it, right? Or it can find it to support itself at this point. I'm sure, after as the system, I mean the AI system, getting the logical, reasoning part further developed, then this can be really, really helpful because, for example, the DeepSeek is a very good in mathematical kind of reasoning. Okay.
I'm sorry,
And
Howard, what did you just say? Which one?
DeepSeek, that's the Chinese one.
I got it. Yeah, I just didn't hear you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we just need to, kind of keep our eye on the development of AI as well. The different models, because at this point the major model for the Gen AI is based on Google's so-called transformer, model. There's some other models, many other models are under development also. So another example is if you prompt the system with a picture or image instead of a verbal, like right now we're using verbal, a language kind of thing. So it's using the Google's transformer model. But if you provide image, the way the there are some different kind of model. It's just a example can give you
Okay.
some sense, you know.
Let's try it, Howie.
Yeah.
Colin, you asked about we're talking about the red dot.
Yeah.
So can you ask, number one, can it give you its sources for what it told you?
Yes, actually, I was trying exactly that as how he was kind of describing it, and I also put that into the table format because to me it is a lot easier for me to consume the information. I also asked the ChatGPT to give me the reference, the actual link to the content that it was extracting from. So so it sort of gave me a good set of references. So basically, talking about the third eye with the explanation, the reason why AI thinks it's accurate and where it got the information from. And it's interesting that AI got a lot of information from Wikipedia. I question the accuracy of Wikipedia itself, but I guess that's all AI can do. I did see AI try to extract information from other sources. For example, from the foundation webpage and from the different sources, and across the different topics, at least try to make an attempt to give me the reasonings why his AI thinks the information is accurate. Also, I noticed the last one, basically the overall completeness and the score, why it think it's not perfect. It's interesting to see the 10 points off is mainly because of the simplification and basically not covering all the aspects of the explanation. So in a way, AI, I think it seems like AI is very confident about the answer he provided, but 10 points is not about accuracy, it's more about coverage.
Thank you. That's wonderful that you did that. So Howie, seeing what he just did, do you think that that's the way we should go?
I think this is this approach is actually a good example of right now at this stage, people finding how to positively and constructively using AI to aiding us, you know, basically using as an assistant. Okay, so that's why people focus on assistant, because it can affect, I mean, change, you know, make the work. They can do a lot of work very efficiently. Now, I think for this class or for ourselves, the direction we can try deeper is, I suggest, right? You can go, for example, here, you can go Wikipedia, for example. You can say, okay, from my knowledge, you can prompt it. Wikipedia, there's a pretty high percentage of information, the accuracy is not there. Then how do you look at it? That is for, you know, asking AI give you its opinion. But you can say, based on that, you can even say, you know, that's a fact, you know. How do you rejudge your, you know, outcome? So you see, there's a many ways you can, you know, dialogue with AI, and you can, through that process, you can get deeper and deeper and more information in terms of what's the source from AI. That, for example, that particular one you already know is from Wikipedia. Immediately we know Wikipedia is not the best, you know, accurate information in for certain topic, but some topic is a very good, right, to a certain degree. So we already get the that sense, for a researcher, that's a very important. And then you can even ask if you know certain, you know, resources for research. For example, if it's a biological, a biotech, then I know, say, the the national repository have a much better information. I can ask AI saying, have you checked this particular, repository on or about? You can even further to give information to AI, say, about what particular kind of a cancer or what particular kind of a technique or technology used in what process, and see how how deep the AI system at this stage, can provide you further information. So this is one is a checking, but also is when we do research, we need someone to doing this, argument kind of a dialogue. So AI can play that role as well through this kind of process. So I think we are all pioneers at this point, trying to find out how to use AI in the research process. So that is a very big area. We all interested in academic, not just academic, but I think for any serious job or planning, they want to find out more. Of course, we keep it going with our human fellows and experts, but sometimes the expert is very difficult to get, right?
So,
So that's why AI is in a large degree is fulfilling that.
so Howie, you
Yes.
mentioned that you went to the National Archive, would you say?
There's for example, for biological fields, for genome, there's a many repository of like gene sequencing. It's the research or the laboratory result. It's already collected for that area research as the fundamental fact, because you need to do a laboratory tests and all that. The result or the findings is already collected. Those are, for the field is the very basic facts, right? So based on that, then, your research and further things has a more solid background, a solid foothold. Now, Wikipedia information, usually they are much later generation information, so to speak. So it's a second hand, third hand, fourth hand, right? So they can point you to the repository, but because of many sometimes copyright things, they cannot get the fact itself. So that's why for many scientific research, we need to get to the fundamental, data. Then that's why AI, I don't know if to this class I mentioned that AI has this three major components. One is computation power. The second one is algorithm. The fourth is data. Now, in terms of data, at this point, AI is gathering all the open data in the internet, but the human accumulated data, that is an only small percentage of the all data human being already collected. Most of the majority of the data is a government data and private data. Okay, so we need to realize that. So don't think about, right now AI already know all the data. Okay, so the second one is the computing power, of course. And then, but also DeepSeek give us also shaking there, because it can do it with relatively cheaper computing power, right? So that's why the stock market got affected. But still, it's true, at least at this point, if you have a more powerful computing hardware, because that's the base for this stage for AI. The more powerful the hardware base, meaning the computation power from the base, then the AI can advance faster and have more new things. Now, in terms of algorithm, basically is a general term to represent the design of the system, the software, the system part. Those you can have a theoretical development, but if you don't have the hardware, then your theoretical doesn't materialize. So meaning we don't have a real useful AI. We can just have the theory, say how to develop AI further. So so that part, but once we have the hardware, then many of the theoretical research can be tested, can be used, and can be further developed. So that area, it doesn't matter if you have the hardware or not. So that's why, from China and else place besides the US, those are, including Europe, it's a very advanced in people from different areas. There's so many areas, much wider than the available AI system. Like I mentioned, you have now textual type of AI, and then you have, so-called multimodal, right? So you have a voice, right? Video, you have image, voice, I mean audio, and then you have also moving picture, that's a video, then you have a still image. So that's what I just mentioned, the image. Then they all, in order to process the data and then being intelligent, the model is different, under the hood, right? So when we say model, it's just a general term. So that's a continual, keep it going kind of area, for the field. Okay, so I think those are some of the insights I know, and then I can share
Thank you.
for the class. Yeah.
Thank you. So, what do you know, that is asking us for the class, what do you know about how much Buddhist material is available for your AI search? Sanjip, when you make your search, do you know how much the computer has in terms of what it's looking at the time when you ask your question?
Normally, I use AI about ChatGPT and DeepSeek for information, and also if I need any translation, Sutra, and also if I need any summary, I use ChatGPT. So sometimes ChatGPT give me good answer about summary or translation. If I need in my language about Bengali language, I got a good answer from ChatGPT.
Well, let me ask Samantha, are you with us?
Yes.
So Samantha, do you know how much Buddhist material is available when you do a search?
Not really. I think, I mean, all I really think about when I'm searching on AI is what we were talking about earlier in class about how it's not actually an intelligence, like an actual intelligence is just drawing information from other sources and regurgitating it, and using patterns and stuff like that. But I don't actually know how much information it's drawing from.
So how can she find out what's available and what it's drawing from?
You are asking me? Or
I'm asking the
asking the
class.
class? No, sorry.
You just said you weren't sure, and I certainly sympathize because very often I would give the same answer. So how do we know how much Buddhist material is on the internet? Reverend Kanjan, you have your hand up.
Yeah, one of the things that I feel kind of sad about is that the amount of books that are out of print that are not on the internet. I think that's why libraries are still very valuable in the research. That's one of the frustrations that I had is that even if you ask yourself, you can ask it where the resources are, that is taking it from. I mean, you can ask it specifically, but I really feel like there is a huge amount of information that is still missing from the internet that are in, the amount of out of print books and research and etc. that is available in actual print that is, of course, if you're studying something specifically, it can be a very expensive, how do you say it? Not hobby, but, pursuit. And I think that's why it's kind of like a research companion. It's like an intelligent person that you're having a conversation with that knows a lot about what's in a certain building or in a certain library, but that you still have to have your own insight and kind of direction. So I usually find myself being directed to texts that are not yet um, scanned on the internet. And even if they're scanned,
Digitized.
doesn't mean that AI is interacting with them. You know, I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yes, that is making a lot of sense. Professor probably remember, in the 2 decades ago, the major tasks for the academia here with a Buddhist study or humanities is a digitization of a material. And that is a far from, finish, right? So we have so many, including archaeology materials, and let alone many of the old books haven't been digitized. So it's not in the digital world yet. So you see, this is a device still there. And then, just this already require us. Also, we need to keep our traditional research on the other realm, right? The category of material. But we also have to be, positive about when the cost of doing digitization and when people realize the usefulness, this process can speed up, right? So, and also I always feel, we still have the responsibility to do it ourselves to help people realize this digitization fundamental issue so we can put more things into the digital world. So through AI and the technology can help us to do our research wider and more efficient. Right? It's a very broad perspective.
Yeah, thank you. I surely remember starting and working with input, and it's going to go on forever. There's no end to it, I think. Well, thank you all for this discussion for the first hour. I appreciate it all. I think that we've made some important points, and I do appreciate those. Let's take a 10-minute break, and we'll come back and we'll do our second part of the class. Thank you all. Thank you, Howie. Thank you, Chris. Thank all of you who participated so far. So see you in a few minutes. Okay, is everybody back? Turn on your cameras for just a little bit so I know you're back with us. Yes, hello. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All of you have access to the Dasabhumika on Moodle. Am I right? And so I thought I'd show you if I can share my screen and it works. So here I did a search, and I'm just going to show you a little bit about how I tried to follow through on my search. This is on the lecture you just watched this week about Buddha emitting a light ray. So I start off and I ask a very specific question, because if we just mentioned we don't have access to everything, however, we do have access to this sutra, and we can use this for our search in order to find out what this text tells us. So I ask it, look in the Dasabhumika Sutra, or just in case, I put one of the translations of its title to see what is said about the Buddha emitting light as a form of teaching. And so here's what I got. You can see it. The Buddha emits light from between his eyebrows. We were just talking about Khan's work with the red dot on the forehead, the third eye, all that. And the Buddhas in the 10 direction emit light as a way of asking a question. I had not myself, from reading the sutra, seen that this was a question about the many Buddhas. The third was from various parts of the Buddha's body. And again, this is one of the questions which Khan raised. It didn't answer for me exactly. As you can see, it gives some If light comes from the knee, it illuminates the animal realms to relieve their suffering. If it comes from the navel, it illuminates the hungry ghost realms and deals with their suffering. If the light comes from the mouth, it shows us the bodies of bodhisattvas. And from the white hair mark between the eyebrows, illuminates all bodhisattvas who have reached a certain level. And from the crown of his head, sends out a number of light rays that show us all the Buddha assemblies in the whole multiverse. These are the kinds of questions which we can ask. When I ask, where do you find this? And ask you to look in the Dasabhumika Sutra or the 10 Ground Sutra first. This is another way to use a text. You ask a question and you're going to go beyond the text, but you say, basically, before you go any further, tell me first what the Dasabhumika says. So it tells me what the Dasabhumika says. The reasoning in Deep Look was that web sources, that's immediately a red flag. What web sources? I'm not sure what that means. Web sources confirm that this discussion is a hallmark of the 10 Grounds Sutra, and that emitting light is one of the biggest issues in the sutra. Well, is that right? So, for example, I ask again, all Buddhas send forth light that enters the Bodhisattva crown. That's a quote. What does this mean? Give a detailed explanation with your source references to a passage which I don't understand. You can put the passage in the text in the chat window. The crown of the Bodhisattva, they take it to be not just the head of, not just on top of his head, but an actual crown. I'm not sure about that either. Is that really what it means when it says it comes from the top of his head? But then I got this very interesting one. I ask it, give a step-by-step breakdown of your reasoning for this answer. And it said, I'm sorry, I can't share details of my internal reasoning. That's the first time I've ever been told, I can't tell you. It's a secret. So then I said, give a step-by-step breakdown of how the role of light, as you portrayed it, is found in the text and in Buddhist teachings. Then it said it gives a pretty good explanation, I have to say. It said this step-by-step progression from textual evidence to symbolic interpretation and doctrinal context shows how the role of light is intricately woven into both the narrative of the sutra and the broader framework of Buddhist teachings. So I ask for all of you in a way, and myself, as a PhD scholar, teacher, give step-by-step instructions on how a student would find this out and come to a similar conclusion or conclusions. It says, number one, you identify the primary text. In this case, it's the Dasabhumika. You conduct a close reading, which means that you read, annotate, you can contextualize, you can compare multiple translations and commentaries. You can do a lot of work, right? Engage in critical discussion. This is all good. So you can see what I was doing. Certain things it wouldn't answer. It'll never answer, I think. I can't ask it to tell me its inner workings. But that's a big blow to scholarship. We really want to know how you get your answer. So any of you who are doing research, I really want to know what process you went through and how you got your answer. So I'm now going to go back to the class itself. Any questions for what you see? I'm just showing you quickly what I did. No big deal, I think. Well, it was a big deal for me because I had to ask Chris to give me a lot of help to download the whole Dasabhumika into my computer and then to make sure I got some of these answers. I appreciate his help very much. Any questions from any of you? Shan.
Yeah, so Professor, so thank you for showing us this using way of to analyze the sutra. But my questions is like you just mentioned it's a big blow to academic world. But do you think because you have already studied sutra, writing many books, maybe one book will cost you 10 years, 20 years, but do you think if at the time you're younger, with the help from ChatGPT or AI, could you maybe shorten the time for research a book, like starting on the Sutra, Prajna Sutra? Just something suddenly a question to my mind. So what do you think? So AI give you those steps, they can tell you.
Well, I think that's why I'm showing you is that there's nothing magical about these steps. In other words, I just ask. And I recommend this to all of you to put in your search the phrase step by step. Ask AI always to do it step by step, and you will get a much better answer. And all of you can do that. It's not my And I'm really sorry when I asked this for a step breakdown of her reasoning that it wouldn't answer. That was a blow. And it was willing, though, to do the step by step. The text, the referencing, all of those are things which it gave me in the step by step process. And so I ask it to step by step tell me how a student could find this out and come to similar conclusions as myself. And you can see what its answer is. What do you think? How many of you could do these things? So Shanshan, what do you think? You certainly can identify a primary text, right?
Yeah.
And you do close reading because you often are translating, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you understand that you have symbolism. You have,
Yeah.
and you have multiple translations and commentaries. You could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And to analyze the symbolic function, that's maybe for is the most difficult in a way. What are the symbolic functions? That light symbolizes a transmission of wisdom. That's a symbolic function. And then when I see it asking me to organize my research, I can say, yes, I can, basically that's what one does. Yvonne, did I see your hand up?
Yes. So my apologies. I'm in a car, so it's got some background noise. So I have a couple of questions. One, I noticed you're using the ChatGPT, I guess ChatGPT 3 version. I think the latest is 4.0. So I'm wondering, would the response be the same, or would a higher version perhaps provide a better response, or perhaps maybe it's just the speed in terms of spitting out the response? That's question one. And the second question is, I guess when they're saying that they cannot share their internal resource, have you, I guess my question is, have you tried it at a different time, or maybe a few days later? Or maybe sometimes, the information may not be available, because when I was doing the translations, sometimes I get stuck, and then later on, or a few weeks later, or sometimes they lapse. Sometimes I get a different response.
Oh, well, I know I haven't tried that. That's a good point. I know every time you search, you're going to get a slightly different answer.
Yeah.
Chris, you want to share, you helped me with doing this. You want to share with them your thoughts?
Well, first of all, the version of ChatGPT that you're using right now is 03, not ChatGPT 3. So this is actually an advanced model. This is their most advanced model.
Sorry. I'm outdated.
They made it so very confusing. They went up to 4 and then down to 1 and up to 3. So, they're made it very confusing with their model numbering. So yeah, it's 03. So this is their new one. I imagine until 5 drops soon. which is supposed to integrate all these various models. Now, this one is supposed to show you some reasoning, and it did a little bit, but of course those steps disappeared. If you've used DeepSeek or Gemini, those also can show you reasoning, how they get to, or how it gets to those answers. Reasoning is kind of a word I'm not sure it's actually using reason to get to these things. What it's doing is it's taking some things that it found and asking itself another question based on a pattern related to what it's already found. So again, it's comparing patterns and just actually kind of re-asking itself and broadening itself rather than reasoning per se. So I'd be interested to see if you rephrase some of these reasoning, this question about reasoning, what we might get, or poke at it a little bit. Maybe it could disclose some steps of how it maybe put some things together, but not its internal mechanisms. Maybe that's a different question altogether.
Howie, your hand is up.
Yes, I just want to give a little bit more my understanding in this. So as you can see, this reasoning is a loaded word. And then also there's a many meaning. I think in this particular AI at this stage, we can see it's just in its a very baby, infancy level. And there's all many different kinds of doing reasoning and cognitive things. So at this point, the AI system is at the very beginning. So we just, but it's already a big thing, right? So we just have to understand that, but keep trying. But we know at this point, it's still very primitive. Yeah.
Thank you. Reverend Kanjan, you had your hand up too.
Yeah, when I did this search, as what Shanshan was saying, I did the search because I was very interested in what you were saying in the lecture about the light. And one of the things that she had mentioned about asking the question about previous sutras, I really tried and I was asking questions and trying to be more specific. But there was a lot that was missing. Like one of the aspects of the light between the eyes is also the white hair and also the direction in which it's done. It didn't mention any of those really specific aspects. And I had asked across general sutras about that. And it was interesting because it gave really great symbolic, how do you say, theory in a way. But I was trying to find specifically in what sutras it was relating to. I knew which sutras from having read them, where they had come from. But one thing that really was difficult, I was really trying lots of different phrases, was the very specific aspect. So I thought, there was a lot missing. So that, the question that she was asking about you reading all the sutras and that, I felt that, how do you say, there was a general aspect to it, but there wasn't, especially when I was researching the idea of energy and aura and all of that with what you were stating. And having the background of the many times, of course, where the Buddha preaches and he emits light from the white curl between his eyes, and it kind of, how do you say, illuminates all of the lands and how do you say, worlds of the 10 worlds or 6 worlds, etc. It didn't get into any of that, and no matter how much I pushed it, it never mentioned it, which was interesting. And even when I asked it directly about it, it didn't come up with any specific information. So that was one thing that was really interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to stop the share and go back to this. No, thank you. That's really, really good points. How about some of the rest of you, when you've tried your search, share with us what you've come up against. Sunny, how about you?
I haven't done the search yet, but I think just can share something about using AI recently because I've been very busy this week and I've been using it to like check up some like legal stuff. And then I did a lot of reading beforehand, and then I use AI to I ask questions and wanted to see if it can give me sources. And all the sources the AI gave me were the sources I have already read. But the AI gave me a completely different conclusion than how I have reasoned through my own reading. And I think for me, like I realized that I had to have a certain level of confidence to believe in myself because I was right. So I think you have to really think like for me, like AI is a tool and it's never it's like you mentioned like there was primary sources and secondary sources. To me, I am always the person doing the first-hand research and then I'm using AI as a second.
Sunny, you're drifting away.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay.
Can
How
you hear me
about,
now?
Not yet. Just it's so low.
Okay, can you hear me now? I switched to the speaker.
That's better.
Can you guys hear me now?
yes,
Okay. What part did you guys not hear me from
Just-
the beginning?
No, just
No.
at the end.
the last 2 or 3 sentences.
I just said like, so for me, I think I always do this thing where when I have a question, I always do my own research. And when
Yes,
I really need a second opinion, that's when I go to AI. And then I verify. But I have a lot of confidence in my interpretation. Like when I saw like a completely different answer from AI and ChatGPT was going, ChatGPT has a very, very confident like tone, and then it made me question myself. But then I checked all the sources, and the sources it provided to me were their sources I have already read. And I went to ask AI because I felt like a lot of times some things can be very ambiguous, like semantically, it's like very open up to interpretation. And in the legal world, there you can ask like you can see like past like cases to see how like it's actually like ruled in reality. But ChatGPT was giving me a completely different direction that's totally not what how the law was interpreted, but it made it sound like it had a lot of sources because I didn't even ask for sources. He listed out a list of things with like the links and the bullet points. And so I think it's very important that you have confidence in yourself when you do these kind of research, and that I think it's better to do your research beforehand and when you start and then have ChatGPT give you an answer and then you use it to verify. Instead of like blindly using as like your first resolution, go directly to it and not really because if you have an answer that is wrong, it will bias you because you don't have that like first-hand research by yourself.
how about that, Con? Do you do the research first and then look at AI, or do you look at AI first?
I I usually start with subject that I'm familiar with, so I'm sort of start my own research. Um, I think at this stage I'm still using AI, uh, like Google search, just to collect information, but not necessarily using the conclusion from AI to for my research. But I also realized, to Sunny's point, and maybe I'm already being influenced by the opinions from AI. Maybe I didn't even notice myself. Actually, the comments from the class from Doctor actually make me sort of start to be more aware of my, how I think about the information. Now maybe it's not just the search results anymore, it's more about like very strong opinionated comments from the results itself.
Wei, how about you? What did you find when you tried to search? Or how do you work? What's your work pattern?
So before I know AI is that useful, I try to do research on myself first. And after I know that AI can give me a lot of information, I will try to ask AI first. So I kind of like opposite the way that I done my research. So last semester, I did a research paper about a specific topics about like Pilates and spiritual healthcare, like a spiritual growth. And there are like tons of information out there. I don't know how to start. So I just ask AI to give me an outline, and then I'll try to gathering some specific information from AI. And then that's really useful. I can get so many information and then so many resources because I try to ask them like, for example, what kind of information I can find from different library, and then AI gave me a list of like additional resources, which is really useful. And then it's kind of save my time. So because it's only limited time that I need to write like 20 pages with like a bibliography in there. So I don't have that much time to search by myself into like either library or online. So AI really helped me a lot to save a lot of time that I can submit my paper on time.
Okay. Michelle, how about you? Michelle, are you there?
Yeah, 1 second. I disabled my camera. I just got a new computer here. Hey. All right. So my AI workflow is kind of different right now because I'm also experimenting with running AI locally, and also using like RAGs, so you're using like a lot of local sources in addition to what the models already contain. Now, when you ask an LLM what it contains and you're actually running it locally, it will tell you. So, like, right now, I'm actually developing a web series based on this sutra since I'm taking the class, and I like that it's broken down into 10 stages, so I think that works for 10 episodes. So I'm working on that with local sources as well as cloud-based sources. And for the cloud, I use a program called Abacus because that one offers like 20 different LLMs, so I can get really specialized results. So yeah, it's a little more complicated.
Oh, well, good for you.
Thanks.
Samantha, but your hand's up.
I had more of a question. So kind of listening to what other people were talking about, in terms of like having to make your own opinions and reach your own conclusions. I know like in social media, a lot of the time, based on how you interact with information and what you're searching up, it can kind of create sort of information silos. So like if I'm interested in this, then I keep getting recommended that more and more often, and then it can kind of skew like all the information that you're receiving. I was wondering if that's something that would also happen with AI based on like what you're searching, or maybe how you try to prompt it, like when if you like start off with a broad question and then you keep asking narrower and narrower questions. I wonder if that's something that could happen with AI.
Yeah, kind of. I would say in a way. especially if you're using the same window and you haven't cleared your chat, because I've noticed that with Chat GPT, it will give me very specialized recommendations. Like if I ask a general business question, and it will give me very personalized recommendations for exactly what I do. So yeah, I definitely see that.
Yeah, because I know like you also like create an account, right? And then based on your other internet usage, it might also pull like geographically where you are, stuff like that. I just kind of wonder how that's going to affect everything.
Yeah, but like Sunny said, you can clear it, or you can probably also specifically prompt it for like one interaction without clearing it to just, not use any previous information it knows about you.
Very good. Yes. Um, Venerable Peng Kong, how about you? Are you able now to use it with your Khmer data or Pali data?
Actually, I I don't know how to use to like translate from Pali. I used one time, but I don't know how to use it probably because it doesn't work for me to translate from Pali to my language or to English. But what I have done is that when I search on something, I don't know how it accurate or not. So the best way for me is to search by using my name, just like Pine Kong, who is Pine, Venerable Pine Kong, and they say very clear, yeah, very accurate. And they tell the more important thing is that according to my observation, the chat GPT, it tell the source, like the source that they say how I am, and then they say from Facebook, YouTube, or from other texts. But according to the deep six, he don't tell me where they get the source from, but they tell very short, like information about myself. And when I don't know, just use my name, I use other name, my friend, and whatsoever. And if I go to the chat GPT, it sometimes it tell sorry they don't know, they don't get this information. And if I go to the DeepSeek, they always tell something, but sometimes it's not true. Just like you tell about this and about that, just like the name of my friends, and then it tell more detail, but it true about Cambodian. He's Cambodian monk, but they tell different story. Yeah, so yeah. So I don't know how to, yeah, to clarify it is correct or not for the other like information, but for myself, I know very clear by using my name, and sometimes I use like my country, and then it like all information in the online source. They always quote all of this information and it tell very clearly. So it's very helpful. And for the research for my paper, I don't do yet. So yes, I have no idea about that. Thank you.
Yvonne, how about you?
Uh, sorry, I didn't catch the question.
Oh, just when you're searching and using AI, do you use it only after you've done research, or do you start with AI?
Oh, no, I think I have a bad habit. I think I went with AI because most of it I do translation, and so I just follow the instructions, which is going to AI. But obviously, I mean, I think I have some basic knowledge about Chinese. So obviously, sometimes the AI will give the wrong translations, and then I just change my prompt to where I feel is probably correct. But again, now I'm starting to doubt, right? So I probably will need to maybe dig in a little bit more and ask for the source.
Yeah. Good. Heather. Howie, yes, you have your hand up.
Yes, I think at this point, I think it's a good time to remind the class just for the networks, for your own privacy reason, you don't put your real many of the crucial critical information on the AI. So you can, because once you put it in there, it was being collected, right? So it's a on your own judgment, right? But for key thing is definitely know your IDs and your passport, scan images, whatever. Those are critical in personal information. Don't put it there. If you want to have that kind of you can use the fake information. Just use the form to provide the substitute information so you can continue to test or use the AI help. But this is a very, very critical at this point, to protect ourselves, the personal information. So I'm just a reminder to the class. Yeah.
Thank you. It's good to bring that up so everybody thinks about it. Well, we're coming to the end here. Let's have one last comment from everybody. What are you thinking right now after all this? Con.
I think I need to spend more time reading the sutra itself. I've been heavily rely on AI to tell me what the sutra says. So I think it's going back to the discussion we had from last week's class, right? I realized that I need to read it myself, the actual the original content, not the content from AI. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now.
Okay. Samantha, what are you thinking?
Kind of in a similar vein. So I studied like English in school. So the way that I think about it is when we're in class, we would talk about documentaries and how they're supposed to be objective depictions of whatever topic they're talking about. But what we were talking about in our classes was that no matter how objective a documentary tries to be, there's always some sort of opinion or perspective or like your personal beliefs that are injected into it, no matter how you try to be objective and like just portray facts. So I think with AI, a similar thing could happen if we don't pay attention to like the primary sources. So like what Con was saying, like reading the sutra as opposed to consistently only using AI to, have it tell you what it's saying. Yeah.
Thank you. Reverend Kanjan, what's on your thoughts?
Yeah, I find AI to be very supportive in researching and doing, translations and also working together. But as everyone is saying, the traditional, and even in modern Buddhism, it's missing the traditional aspect of learning the sutras, the transmission aspect from a teacher, and putting in the time is really essential to be able to correctly use the tools, I would say. Um, I mean, that's just what it reinforces. I mean, it's extremely helpful. Otherwise, the amount of time, I think it narrows the amount of time that it would take me to find references and to kind of formulate my ideas, and even when I'm translating, to see the differences in the interpretations of sentences from even what I'm thinking, to get a better translation and even to define words. And I think it works together, but the traditional way of teaching the sutras is really, I really think it's essential to be used with AI in order to get, I mean, if you're going to look in depth, um, kind of confirms it, but I'm very happy that I've learned AI because I use it all the time now. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
You, Venerable Pyong Kong, what's on your mind at this moment? What are you thinking about at this moment?
Yeah, actually, I am thinking of like figure out how to use like AI to support my reading. Just like at first thing I need to use like the text. I need to read the text, and later on, in order to find how the AI can tell me about that text, I use AI to get more information about what is like the AI would tell how the information that I need to learn from the AI, something like that. I need to use the primary source by using the text or the sutra that I'm going to read. And later on, I find more information through AI. This is how.
Good. Wei, how about you? What are you thinking?
I think AI is really, really helpful and powerful for sure. It really helped me a lot, especially when I don't understand something. I can just translate and then ask for a explanation. But after the last question, the professor asked about how do I use AI to do my research or that kind of stuff, I just realized sometimes I will use AI first instead of I try to do the work by myself. So after I know how to use that, it's kind of lost the ability to think by myself. I try to ask AI to help me do most of the work. It saved a lot of my time to create, increase the efficiency, but at the same time, it kind of lost some ability to do the work. Yeah.
Very honest. Thank you for being there. Shanjan, how about you? What's in your mind?
Yeah, I just think about that I think for the relationship and between AI and us, it's like we are the chef. So AI kind of like the food materials. Everyone can cook, but how do it taste if you are the 5-star Michelin chef or you are just a normal daily chef? So I think it's really interesting. So AI is daily use, but how can you use it better to train the prompt and make AI is more suitable for you? So be more useful for academic or professional work. So that's something, it's a really a methodology. So everyone should learn to use AI. So even though it looks very easy, but actually AI is really a powerful tool. That's my thinking.
Thank you. Michelle, what's your last thought?
Yeah, I definitely do think that there is something to be said for, formulating your own opinions based on source material and not just kind of using whatever AI tells you as a baseline.
Okay, thank you. Sanjip, how about you? What's in your thoughts?
Yes, I think I have to explain more about to know about AI. It's so helpful and also supportive to learn about sutras and also others translations and also research. So I think I have to learn more about AI. Thank you.
Sunny, how about you?
I think throughout this class, I've been thinking about what Shanshan was saying about how her friend uses the fortune telling. And I've been thinking of myself, how I have been using AI, and I've been thinking about the use cases, like what do I use it most? And for me, I have this thing where sometimes I'm an over planner. I think of everything. I have to think of all the pros and cons. So a lot of times I'll ask a question and I'll give Chat GPT 5 plans and all the pros and cons of each plan, and I want Chat GPT to give me a very subjective opinions and tell me why and which plan does it think is like the best plan and give me all the reasonings and all the things that I should consider. And then after reading the opinion, I'll like make my own opinion. So I'm treating it as like a sophisticated friend, which I think has been my use case, and I think it has really worked well for me. So I'm not asking for like sources and anything. I'm treating it as like a human asking for like opinions. And I also think how like disconnected I have been with like my real life friends, because a lot of times I think, when I text my friends, sometimes I have to work and stuff. I can't get an immediate response, but when I ask ChatGPT, I can always get an answer, and I can be like very, very wordy, right? I can give them like all the reasons. Like if they tell me like this plan is good or this solution is good, then I'll come up with follow up. But what if this happens? What would you do? So I think for me that is my use case. And I don't know how other people are using like AI. What do they use AI most for in their own lives?
Yvonne?
Oh, I think I just have to echo with what everybody else had said, that definitely AI is very powerful, but at the same token, I think there is some decision making on the end user as well. One is the source, the accuracy of it, and the other one is it does have, like like what Howie was saying, um, what you put in, like confidential information, people can, once you put in your personal information, it's in the system, I guess, for permanently. So I think there are some things I think probably too heavily rely upon AI, but I think, I need to take a step back and be more cautious.
Well, our time is up. I want to thank Howie again. I want to thank Chris. Thank you, Venerable D, for being with us, and all of you who presented tonight. Next week, Chris, what's the topic?
Let me pull it up.
The lecture will be.
The topic next week is living in Bhumi 1.
I'm sorry.
Living in Bhumi 1.
Oh, living in Bhumi 1. Now, let me ask all of you, and I'm going to do this next time. You can use AI and see how you want to judge my lecture. I gave the lecture without using AI. So look at the lecture from a very, and you don't hurt my feelings. You can say anything you want. I hope that you can listen to the lecture, but also see what you can do to say, hey, professor, you should have used this, or here's something which is missing. You can judge my lectures, I hope, in a better way, because you have this resource. So use it. Feel free. Thank you all. Time is up. I'll see you next week, same time. So I'll say goodbye. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Professor.
Good night.
Thank you
Good
all.
night. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Bye.
Night, everybody.